The crystalline spires of the Galactic Council chamber caught the light of 3 setting suns, casting rainbow patterns across worried faces of a dozen different species. Representative Cawthor's scaled fingers traced the holographic display, her inner eyelids flickering as she reviewed the latest casualty reports. 3 solar systems lost in just 2 lunar cycles. Billions of lives simply gone. The defense grid in the Proxima sector has fallen, Admiral Venth announced, his bioluminescent patches pulsing with distress. The Star Shapers have adapted to our phase cannon technology. They're learning faster than ever before. Cawthor observed the council members' reactions. The gelatinous Muri representatives quivered in their containment fields. The silicon-based Zikast had darkened to an almost black crystalline shade. Even the usually stoic energy beings from the Centauri worlds flickered with uncertainty. "We've deployed our most advanced weapon systems," General Shtul said, her exoskeleton clicking as she manipulated the tactical display. Quantum disruptors, dark matter cannons, even the experimental consciousness transfer arrays. The Star Shapers adapt to each one within days. Cawthor rose from her seat, her tail curling around her ceremonial staff for support. "Honorable Council, I propose we consider an unconventional solution. We've explored every weapon in the United Galaxies," Admiral Venth countered, his bioluminescence now a dangerous red. "Not every weapon," Cawthor said softly. She approached the central hologram and entered a series of commands. The tactical display disappeared, replaced by footage from a quarantine system in the spiral arm of a minor galaxy. "I propose we consider Earth." The chamber erupted in dismissive whistles and electromagnetic pulses of derision. The Muri representatives actually bubbled with amusement. "The primitive world." General Shtul's mandibles clicked rapidly. "The species that still uses combustion engines and binary computational systems." Cawthor waited for the reactions to settle before continuing. "Watch," she commanded, and played the first clip. The footage showed humans working in what the Council recognized as an active volcanic zone, wearing only thin protective suits as they gathered data mere meters from flowing lava. She played another clip, humans diving into raging seas to rescue others. Then another, humans running into burning buildings, carrying out survivors. Clip after clip showed humans not just surviving but deliberately entering environments that would kill most sentient species. "These recordings are from their public information networks," Cawthor explained. "They call such humans first responders and emergency services. They celebrate those who risk death to save others, a concept that exists in no other known species." The chamber had grown silent. Even the energy beings had stilled their usual quantum fluctuations. "But that's not what makes them truly unique," Cawthor continued. She played one final clip. Footage of a human space mission where everything had gone wrong. The Council watched in fascination as the humans faced fatal equipment failures, but instead of accepting death, improvised solutions using primitive materials that no advanced species would even consider. "The Star Shapers defeat us because they predict and adapt to our advanced technology," Cawthor said into the silence. "But humans thrive when technology fails. They possess something no other species has developed, the ability to create solutions from apparent failure. They call it thinking outside the box." Admiral Venth's bioluminescence had shifted to a thoughtful blue. "Even if what you say is true, they're centuries behind our technological level. How could they possibly help against the Star Shapers?" Cawthor's outer eyelids curved in what her species' equivalent of a smile. "The Star Shapers predict and counter perfection, excellence, advancement. But humans are gloriously, brilliantly imperfect. And that might be exactly the weapon we need." The Council chamber remained quiet as the implications settled in. Above them, the 3 suns finally set, leaving only the soft glow of bioluminescent beings and the reflection of distant stars on crystalline walls. In that ethereal light, the fate of galaxies balanced on a single question: Could the most primitive species in known space be the key to saving it? Spring sunlight sparkled off Lake Geneva as Cawthor's diplomatic vessel descended through Earth's atmosphere. She stood at the observation window, inner eyelids rapidly blinking as she processed the sight of human civilization spread below. Their structures were an odd mix of artistic and practical, nothing like the uniform efficiency of most spacefaring races. "They're tracking us with primitive radar systems," Lieutenant Anxville reported, his crystalline form shifting colors with concern. "And their orbital satellites have locked onto our position." "As expected," Cawthor replied calmly. "Maintain our agreed approach vector." What wasn't expected was the complete lack of panic on the ground. As their ship descended toward the designated landing zone, Cawthor observed humans going about their daily activities, occasionally looking up to watch the alien vessel with what appeared to be curiosity rather than fear. The landing zone itself proved another surprise. A perfectly measured circle of exactly the right size for their ship, with appropriate safety margins and emergency response vehicles already in position. The humans had even calculated the correct thermal shielding requirements for the landing pad. "They're more prepared than initial reports suggested," General Tull observed, her mandibles clicking thoughtfully. Perhaps the surveillance data was incomplete. Cawthor led the delegation down the landing ramp, where a mixed group of human representatives waited. Military officers stood alongside civilian leaders, all maintaining a professional calm that rivaled any advanced species. Their designated speaker stepped forward, a silver-haired woman in a blue uniform. "On behalf of Earth's United Nations, welcome," she said in clear, measured tones. "I'm Admiral Chen. We've prepared meeting facilities that should accommodate your biological requirements." Before Cawthor could respond, the ground began to shake. Her species' natural balance adjustments kicked in as she registered seismic activity that should have caused panic. Instead, she watched in fascination as the humans smoothly shifted into emergency protocols. "Magnitude 5.7 earthquake," one of the human officers reported, checking a handheld device. "Epicenter 15 kilometers south." Admiral Chen turned to her guests. "We can proceed to the bunker level for safety, or if you prefer, our reinforced surface facility remains within acceptable safety parameters. The choice is yours." Cawthor shared a look with her delegation. The humans weren't just maintaining calm. They were prioritizing their guests' comfort during a natural disaster. "The surface facility will suffice," she decided. As they walked to the building, Cawthor observed multiple human response patterns simultaneously unfolding. Emergency vehicles moved out with practiced precision. Medical teams assembled at strategic points. Construction crews began checking structural integrity of nearby buildings. It was a dance of organized chaos that somehow produced effective results. Inside the facility, their meeting commenced as if earthquakes were a normal backdrop for first contact scenarios. Admiral Chen pulled up detailed protocols for diplomatic relations with alien species. "We've wargamed these scenarios since the 1950s, she explained, pulling up documentation that showed decades of preparation. Everything from biological contamination prevention to cultural exchange guidelines. We've tried to account for various possibilities." Lieutenant Anxville's crystalline form shifted to a shade indicating surprise. "You created protocols for meeting alien species before you had proof we existed." "Humanity has learned to prepare for the improbable," Admiral Chen replied. "It's served us well so far." Cawthor felt her species' equivalent of a smile forming. "Then perhaps you're prepared to hear why we've really come." "The Star Shapers," Admiral Chen said calmly, causing the alien delegation to freeze in surprise. "We've been monitoring deep space transmissions. We may be primitive by your standards, but we recognize patterns of an expanding conflict. The question isn't why you're here, it's what kind of help you need." Outside, the emergency response teams continued their efficient work as aftershocks rolled through the city. Cawthor watched a human rescue worker climb down into a damaged building to help someone below, displaying that remarkable combination of calculated risk and instinctive drive to help others. Perhaps, she thought, They had found exactly what the galaxy needed. A species that turned chaos into opportunity and impossibility into just another problem to solve. The holographic training chamber aboard the Galactic flagship, Stellar Dawn, hummed with energy as Lieutenant Sarah Martinez approached the quantum navigation console. Cather watched from the observation deck, her scaled fingers drumming against the rail as the human officer began her first attempt at controlling the ship's dimensional drive. "This is impossible," General Tz'Tol muttered, mandibles clicking rapidly. "The quantum interface requires at least 30 cycles of neural adaptation before." The general fell silent as Martinez's fingers flew across the holographic controls, the ship's simulation core responding as if guided by a veteran pilot. The human officer wasn't just operating the system. She was experimenting with it, testing its limits, finding new configurations that the ship's artificial intelligence rated as more efficient than standard protocols. 7 days, Cather said softly. "They've been aboard for 7 days, and they're already rewriting our combat doctrines." In another section of the training chamber, a team of human engineers had dismantled a malfunctioning shield generator. Instead of replacing it as protocol dictated, they were modifying it with parts from 3 different systems. The ship's maintenance AI had initially flagged this as a violation, then fallen silent as their improvised solution proved more effective than the original design. "Their neural plasticity is unprecedented," the ship's medical officer, Dr. Yenra, observed through her floating sensor array. "But it's more than that. They don't just learn, they question everything. They ask why and what if about systems we've used for centuries." Cather moved to another observation window. Below, a mixed squad of human and alien soldiers ran combat drills. The aliens moved with practiced precision, executing textbook maneuvers perfected over generations. The humans moved differently, unpredictably, creating new tactics on the fly, adapting to each scenario in ways that shouldn't have worked but somehow did. "Watch this," Dr. Yenra said, directing Cather's attention to a particular simulation. A human surgeon faced off against a training drone, using a standard energy rifle. When the weapon malfunctioned, instead of calling for a replacement as procedures required, the surgeon instantly shifted strategy. He used the rifle's power cell as an improvised explosive, the weapon's targeting system as a distraction, and the cooling rod as a close combat weapon. They turned failures into advantages, Cather noted, remembering her words to the council. Every malfunction becomes a new tool. The ship's tactical officer, Commander Zexfith, materialized beside them in a shimmer of quantum particles. "The human Marines have proposed modifications to our basic combat protocols," he reported, his energy form flickering with what might have been excitement. "They suggest we're too reliant on technology working perfectly. They want to train for scenarios where everything fails. Unconventional." General Tz'Tol began, but Cather cut her off. "Implement their suggestions immediately," she ordered, "and give them access to the advanced weapon systems." The general's exoskeleton rattled in shock. "Those systems are too dangerous." The neural feedback alone cooled. A cheer from the training chamber interrupted her. Lieutenant Martinez had just completed a series of dimensional jumps that the ship's AI had calculated as theoretically impossible. The human officer was grinning, her vital signs showing elevated excitement rather than the expected stress. "Don't you see?" Cather asked, watching as more humans began pushing the limits of their assigned systems. "What we see as dangerous, they see as a challenge. What we consider limitations, they treat as suggestions. They're not just learning our technology, they're reinventing it." In the chamber below, the human surgeon was now teaching alien soldiers how to operate with failed equipment. The humans called it working with what you've got. To Cather, it looked like magic. The ability to create solutions from nothing, to find paths where none should exist. "The Star Shapers won't expect this," she said, more to herself than the others. They'd predict responses based on logic, on established patterns. But humans. She watched as another impossible tactical solution unfolded in the training chamber. Humans write their own patterns. The patrol route along the Andromeda Rim was supposed to be routine. Commander Sarah Chen sat at the helm of the scout ship Swift Horizon, monitoring the quantum sensors while her mixed human-alien crew maintained their standard observation patterns. The ship's crystalline hull gleamed against the backdrop of stellar clouds, its advanced stealth systems making it virtually undetectable. "Contact," Lieutenant Arxtil announced, his bioluminescent patches pulsing with alarm. 3 Star Shaper vessels just emerged from dimensional space. Chen's hands moved across the holographic controls, already calculating evasive trajectories. Profile. Scout class. They're running active scans. They've detected us. Arxtil's voice rose as the enemy ships changed course. Energy weapons charging. "All hands, battle stations," Chen ordered, her voice steady despite the growing tension. "Lieutenant Martinez, ready the phase cannons. Arxtil, get me a barrier field." The first volley from the Star Shapers lit up space like artificial lightning. The Swift Horizon dove through the barrage, its barrier field absorbing the initial impacts. Chen executed a series of maneuvers that should have been impossible for a ship of their class, buying precious seconds. Phase cannons ineffective, Martins reported as their return fire dissipated harmlessly against the Star Shaper shields. They've already adapted to the frequency modulation. Chen watched the tactical display, her mind racing. The Star Shapers moved with perfect coordination, their crystalline ships forming an ever-tightening net around the scout vessel. Standard doctrine called for a retreat in this situation. But Chen had another idea. "Engineering, kill the core dampeners," she ordered, drawing shocked gasps from the alien crew members. "Martinez, dump the phase cannon cooling cells. Arxtil, plot me a micro-jump trajectory through that debris field. Captain, removing the core dampeners will destabilize our entire power grid." The engineering chief's protest crackled through the comm. "And without cooling cells, the phase cannons will." "Exactly." Chen cut him off. "Do it. Now." The ship shuddered as safety systems were bypassed. Warning indicators flashed across every console as the power core's signature flared wildly. The Star Shapers, detecting the apparent malfunction, moved in for the kill. "Micro-jump plotted," Arxtil reported, his bioluminescence now a confused swirl of colors. "But without stable power, we can't." "Execute jump," Chen ordered. The Swift Horizon lurched into dimensional space just as its power grid began to collapse. They reappeared in the heart of the debris field, their ship's energy signature masked by the surrounding chaos of random emissions. "Phase cannons at critical," Martins warned. "Containment failing. Target the largest piece of debris and fire all cannons," Chen commanded. "Then go to emergency power, everything except life support." The phase cannons discharged one final time before burning out completely. The energy blast struck a massive chunk of ancient spacecraft, superheating its metallic core. The resulting explosion sent thousands of smaller fragments hurtling through space at near-relativistic speeds. The Star Shapers, their perfect formation still hunting for the scout ship's energy signature, never adjusted to the primitive threat of kinetic weapons. Superheated debris tore through their shields, designed to stop energy weapons, but helpless against physical impacts. "Multiple direct hits," Arxtil reported, his voice filled with disbelief. "2 Star Shaper vessels disabled. The third is retreating." Chen allowed herself a small smile as she began restoring ship systems. "Signal the fleet. Tell them we found a weakness. Their adaptive shields can't stop what they don't recognize as a weapon." Hours later, as repair crews worked to restore the Swift Horizon to full function, Kother received the battle report in her command center. She read it 3 times, her inner eyelids flickering with growing excitement. "They used a power failure as a tactical advantage," she murmured. "Turned primitive debris into a weapon. Succeeded where advanced technology failed." She turned to her staff, who waited expectantly. "Send this report to every ship in the fleet. The age of perfect solutions is over. It's time to embrace the human way of war. The holographic war room aboard the flagship Stellar Dawn buzzed with activity as Admiral Chen presented the latest tactical analysis. Cather watched the human officer gesture at a three-dimensional display showing recent battle movements, her inner eyelids flickering with growing fascination. The Star Shapers rely on perfect geometric formations, Chen explained, highlighting crystalline ship patterns. They expect the same from us, organized, predictable responses. So we're going to give them chaos instead. The assembled alien commanders shifted uncomfortably. General Tull's mandibles clicked rapidly. Chaos is the opposite of effective military doctrine. Exactly, Chen smiled, adjusting the display. We've analyzed their response patterns. They counter what they recognize as threats, but they struggle to adapt to anything that doesn't fit their definition of warfare. The display shifted to show a new formation, or rather what appeared to be a complete lack of formation. Small scout ships darted between capital vessels in seemingly random patterns. Support craft maintained irregular orbits around their charges. We call this controlled chaos, Chen continued. Each ship maintains awareness of its neighbors but moves independently. No fixed patterns to predict. No standard responses to counter. Lieutenant Martinez stepped forward, highlighting several recent engagements. We've already seen the results. The Star Shapers take 3.7 times longer to adapt to irregular attack patterns. Their perfect coordination becomes a weakness when they can't categorize our movements. Cather watched the tactical simulations play out. Human innovations had transformed the Galactic fleet. Ships now carried physical projectile weapons alongside energy cannons. Engineers had developed what they called dummy drones, decoys that broadcast false signals to confuse the enemy's predictive algorithms. But the real game changer is this, Chen said, bringing up footage from the latest engagement. We're teaching ships to act like submarines. The alien commanders stared in confusion until Chen explained the ancient Earth concept. Vessels that moved silent and deep, hunting through stealth rather than power. The footage showed galactic ships using debris fields and stellar phenomena as cover, running silent until the perfect moment to strike. They're beautiful, a junior officer whispered, watching Star Shaper formations break apart in confusion as attacks came from unexpected vectors. Like a dance. A deadly dance, Martinez agreed. But there's more. Show them the special operations footage. The display shifted to show small, modified shuttles slipping through Star Shaper defensive screens. Human crews, trained in what they called infiltration tactics, had learned to match their energy signatures to background radiation. They could drift past enemy sensors by mimicking space debris, then strike at critical moments. They never expect us to get this close, Martinez explained, showing successful strikes against Star Shaper supply lines. Their concept of warfare doesn't include small unit tactical operations. They watch for fleets, not individual ships. And what happens when they do adapt? General Tull demanded. Their computational power. We changed the rules again, Chen interrupted. Humans have been fighting each other for millennia. We've developed thousands of different combat doctrines. The moment they adapt to one approach, we switch to another. Cather stepped forward, her scaled fingers tracing battle patterns in the holographic display. You're not just changing how we fight, she realized. You're changing how we think about warfare itself. Exactly, Chen nodded. The Star Shapers expect perfect order, even in battle. We're teaching your ships to embrace imperfection, to find strength in uncertainty. Every captain now has authority to improvise, to try new approaches. The display showed more recent victories. Star Shaper formations breaking apart under attacks they couldn't predict, couldn't categorize, couldn't counter with their usual perfect responses. Their strength had become their weakness. We're not just fighting them, Martinez said softly. We're making them face something they've never encountered before. The beautiful unpredictability of human nature. As if to emphasize her point, new tactical alerts flashed across the display. More Star Shaper formations had been spotted, moving with their usual geometric precision. But now, instead of fear, the alert brought anticipation. The Galactic fleet had learned to dance in chaos, and the Star Shapers were about to learn a new step. The first signs came from deep space monitoring stations scattered throughout the solar system. Lieutenant Martinez, now stationed at Lunar Defense Command, watched as hundreds of dimensional rifts tore open the fabric of space. The Star Shapers had finally decided to strike at humanity's home. "They're coming in force," she reported, her voice calm despite the gravity of the situation. Initial count suggests over 300 capital ships, with support vessels still emerging. Admiral Chen's hologram flickered in the command center. Status of the defense grid. Earth's population has been moved to hardened shelters. Orbital platforms are charged and ready. The civilian space fleet has been integrated into the defense network as planned. Martinez highlighted approaching enemy formations. They're using a new configuration, something we haven't seen before. The Star Shaper fleet emerged in perfect geometric patterns, their crystalline ships forming what looked like a giant three-dimensional snowflake in space. Energy readings from their combined weapons systems exceeded anything previously recorded. "They think this will break us," Chen said softly. "They think threatening our home will make us predictable, make us fight conventionally." A small smile crossed her face. "Let's show them how humans protect their home." The defense of Earth unfolded unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Civilian ships, retrofitted with both alien technology and improvised weapons, moved in seemingly random patterns through the larger military formation. Space stations fired salvos of kinetic projectiles alongside energy weapons, creating unpredictable patterns of destruction. Multiple breaches in their forward formation, Martinez reported as the first wave of attacks struck home. They're trying to adapt their shields, but they can't predict which attacks are real and which are decoys. The Star Shaper's perfect snowflake pattern began to fragment as they encountered one surprise after another. Cargo containers, seemingly abandoned in space, exploded into clouds of sensor-blocking particles. Damaged ships, instead of retreating, deliberately collided with enemy vessels. Each human craft fought differently, making it impossible for the Star Shapers to develop a unified counter-strategy. New contacts emerging from the lunar surface, one of the sensor operators announced. "Mining ships, ma'am. They're using industrial cutting beams as weapons." Martinez watched as civilian mining vessels, their industrial equipment repurposed for war, joined the battle alongside military ships. The Lunar Mining Guild had modified their excavation tools into short-range, but devastating weapons that bypassed standard energy shields. "Remarkable." Cawthor's voice came through the command channel. Her ship had just arrived with reinforcements from the Galactic fleet. "Your people fight as one, yet each in their own way." "This is humanity," Shen replied as another wave of innovative attacks disrupted Star Shaper formations. "When we're threatened, we don't just defend. We improvise, we adapt, we overcome." The battle reached its peak as the Star Shapers launched their main assault. Their remaining ships formed a perfect geometric spear, concentrating enough firepower to pierce Earth's strongest defenses. But humanity had prepared for this moment. "Execute Operation Scatter," Chen commanded. Instantly, the seemingly chaotic defense pattern shifted. Every ship, military and civilian alike, moved with coordinated purpose. The Star Shapers found their perfect spear points splitting apart, engaged from 100 different angles by 100 different tactics. "Their formation is critically compromised," Martinez reported, watching the enemy fleet's geometry crumble. "They're attempting to regroup, but they can't establish a stable pattern under this much varied attack." The Star Shaper fleet, for the first time in known history, began to retreat in disarray. Their perfect structures had been shattered by humanity's controlled chaos, their predictive algorithms overwhelmed by the sheer variety of human innovation. As the enemy fled through dimensional rifts, Chen's hologram surveyed the aftermath. Damaged ships were already being repaired, civilian vessels returning to their regular duties even as they maintained defensive positions. "Send word to the Galactic Council," she ordered. Tell them that humanity stands ready not just to defend Earth, but to carry this fight forward. The Star Shapers tried to break our spirit by threatening our home. Instead, they've only shown us what we can achieve when we stand together. The command center of the Stellar Dawn had been transformed. Where once pristine holographic displays showed ordered battle formations, now a chaotic array of tactical readouts filled the space. Admiral Chen stood at the center, surrounded by both human and alien officers, as she outlined humanity's most audacious plan yet. The Star Shapers coordinate through crystalline nexus points, she explained, highlighting several structures deep in enemy territory. They're not just command centers. They're the source of their perfect order, their ability to adapt so quickly to our tactics. Cothair's inner eyelids flickered with concern. Those nexus points are unreachable. The defensive formations around them are impenetrable. Impenetrable to a conventional assault, Lieutenant Martins corrected, stepping forward. But we're not planning anything conventional. The tactical display shifted, showing a small fleet of modified scout ships. Each vessel had been stripped down, rebuilt with a mixture of alien technology and human ingenuity. Their power signatures could be adjusted on the fly, their hulls wrapped in materials that absorbed sensor scans. We call them ghost ships, Martinez explained. Inspired by old Earth legends of phantom vessels that appear and disappear at will. Each one carries a specially trained crew of infiltration specialists. General Tull's mandibles clicked rapidly. You intend to slip past their defenses? Impossible. Their sensor nets are perfect, their response patterns absolute. Exactly, Chen smiled. Their perfection is their weakness. They're so focused on detecting what they consider proper military threats that they ignore anything that doesn't fit their parameters. The display showed simulation after simulation of ghost ships drifting through enemy formations. They moved like space debris, their energy signatures masked to mimic natural phenomena. When they needed to move quickly, they accelerated in ways that mimicked solar ejections or gravitational effects. We've learned from Earth's deep-sea predators, Martinez continued. Like octopi changing their color and texture to match their surroundings, our ships will become invisible not through technology, but by becoming what the enemy expects to see. The plan unfolded in the holographic space. While the main fleet engaged the Star Shapers in apparently conventional battles, drawing their attention and adaptive responses, the ghost ships would penetrate their territory. Each carried a payload that combined human computer viruses with galactic technology, designed not to destroy the nexus points, but to introduce subtle imperfections into their perfect systems. The virus won't shut them down, Chen explained. It will do something far worse, introduce human chaos into their ordered world. Each nexus point will begin generating slightly different command patterns. Their perfect coordination will gradually break down. You mean to drive them mad? Cothair realized, understanding dawning in her expression. We mean to teach them the strength of imperfection, Chen corrected, to show them that true adaptation comes not from perfect responses, but from embracing uncertainty. The assembled officers watched as the final simulations played out. The ghost ships would need to operate deep in enemy territory for weeks, their crews living in near-silent conditions, waiting for precisely the right moments to strike. It was dangerous, requiring a level of patience and precision that seemed at odds with humanity's reputation for chaos. This is why we needed humans, Cothair said softly to her staff, not just for their ability to create chaos, but for their understanding of when to use it and when to wait. The briefing concluded, and officers moved to their assignments. As the command center cleared, Chen stayed behind, studying the tactical display. Martins approached her quietly. The crews are ready, she reported. They understand the risks. Chen nodded, her expression thoughtful. We're not just fighting for Earth anymore. We're fighting to prove that perfection isn't the ultimate goal, that there's strength in being beautifully, impossibly human. Above them, the ghost ships began their final preparations. Soon, they would slip into the darkness of space, carrying with them humanity's greatest weapons: patience, creativity, and the willingness to embrace the unknown. The perfect order of the Star Shapers was about to meet its greatest challenge, not in a grand battle, but in the quiet introduction of wonderful, unpredictable chaos. The crystalline council chamber fell silent as the Star Shaper representative materialized in the center of the room. Its geometric form shifted through complex patterns, translating thought into universal language protocols. Cothair sat beside Admiral Chen, their unlikely alliance having brought them to this historic moment. "We request cessation of hostilities," the Star Shaper announced. The chamber erupted in surprised murmurs. Never in recorded history had the Star Shapers initiated diplomatic contact. "Your request is unexpected," Cothair responded carefully. "What prompted this change?" The Star Shaper's crystalline form rippled with new patterns. "We have learned. The human virus did not destroy our nexus points. Instead, it taught them to question perfection." Chen leaned forward, studying the complex light patterns dancing through the representative's form. Where Star Shapers once displayed only rigid geometric shapes, now their patterns showed subtle variations, small imperfections that made them uniquely beautiful. "Our pursuit of perfect order was based on the assumption that it represented peak evolution," the Star Shaper continued. "The human concept of controlled chaos has shown us otherwise. We have discovered that true adaptation requires creativity." Lieutenant Martinez, monitoring from a tactical station, displayed readings from across former Star Shaper space. Their ships now moved in formations that combined geometric precision with unpredictable elements. Their worlds showed signs of artistic expression, their structures incorporating intentional asymmetry. "They're evolving," Cothair realized, her inner eyelids flickering rapidly. "Not just adapting, but genuinely changing." The Star Shaper's form shifted again, creating patterns that almost resembled organic movement. "We propose an exchange. We will share our understanding of perfect coordination. In return, we request human teachers to help us understand the strength found in imperfection." Chen smiled, remembering the long journey that had brought them here. "Perhaps we all have something to learn from each other. Perfect order and creative chaos don't have to be opponents. They can be complementary forces." The chamber's atmosphere changed as implications rippled through the assembled representatives. The Galactic Council had sought a weapon against the Star Shapers, but humanity had given them something far more valuable: a bridge between seemingly incompatible ways of existence. "We accept your proposal," Cothair announced formally, "and we extend an invitation for the Star Shaper civilization to join the Galactic Council as full members." The Star Shaper's response came in a display of crystalline patterns that somehow conveyed both mathematical precision and artistic beauty. "We accept. Our analysis shows that diversity strengthens the whole. Humanity has taught us that perfection without growth is stagnation." As the historic meeting concluded, Chen found herself in the Council's observation dome with Cothair, watching ships from all three civilizations moving together in the space above. Star Shaper vessels now carried human crew members, while Earth ships had begun incorporating crystalline technology in new and creative ways. "When you first suggested recruiting humans," Cothair said, "I thought we needed warriors. Instead, you gave us teachers. Sometimes the best weapon against an enemy is to show them a different way of seeing the universe," Chen replied, watching a group of human engineers working alongside Star Shaper crystalsmiths, combining their knowledge to create something entirely new. The galaxy was changing. Star Shaper precision merged with human creativity, creating technologies and art forms never before imagined. Earth had taken its place among the stars not through conquest, but by demonstrating that strength comes in many forms. "Your species continues to surprise us," Cothair observed as they watched a Star Shaper ship execute a maneuver that was both mathematically perfect and beautifully unpredictable. "That's the best part about being human," Chen smiled. "We surprise ourselves too." Above them, the three suns of the Council world set in sequence, their light playing through the crystalline structures that now incorporated subtle imperfections, making them stronger, more adaptable, and more beautiful than ever before. In the growing starlight, the combined fleet danced through space, each ship following its own path while moving in harmony with the whole. A living demonstration that perfection could be found in the embrace of imperfection itself.